similarities on the team, so a lot to think about. And the Sableye, we talked about it yesterday. I don't know how well it does in this particular matchup, but its move pool is absolutely ridiculous for a supported Pokemon. Not only does it have Prankster, it has an absolute plethora of moves that it can bring with it. I know a lot of people leaning into the Quash recently, which has been really important as a very odd and a very unique form of speed control. If you're in a mirror, though, and you need to Quash something, you know, you could get a huge advantage off that.
Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead and see the Sableye hit the field alongside Kasper's Charizard, and Rafael leading this game number 1 with the Lunala and the Grimmsnarl.
Both trainers leaning into something, you know, quite offensive with a very important supportive partner. Very different supportive partners, though. The Grimmsnarl's a known factor at this point. And Lee and Lou were talking about it, that once you've seen a Pokemon over and over again, you know what it's going to do, you know your way around it. And that's sort of where we're at with Grimmsnarl now. I think we've all agreed on the Grimmsnarl build that we prefer and we really want to get into, so that could slow Kasper down a lot. A well-placed Light Screen, a well-placed Reflect can easily take some of that pressure off early on. So even though you may be getting quashed by the Sableye, you are still taking that damage a whole lot better. You know, Quash doesn't cause as many problems when you're able to take the hits anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder how well that's going to be able to help out this Gigantamax Charizard that Kasper has put on the field, but it's not Quash, it's Ally Switch. Right off the bat here, Sableye is going to reveal that, and wow, some big stuff coming out from this first turn.
We said Sableye had options, and that is one of them, to say the least. That is one of the most frustrating moves, and that Grimmsnarl gets absolutely nothing done before it is felled by this Charizard, so a really good start for Kasper here. That said, you know, even with the Ally Switch, the Lunala still manages to land some damage onto the threat, which is the Charizard.
Yes, it does. Obviously, I think you would definitely want to be able to take out this Sableye, but it works out just fine. Now Rafael does get a free switch into the Charizard of his own. Yeah,
the Charizard as well is one of those awkward mirrors, though, where, okay, you know, you need to go first, particularly if they're both running Ancient Power, which is definitely a staple on the Charizard right now, but you can't even opt into that matchup with the threat of Quash around. You just can't make that choice, because if you Dynamax your Charizard and then lose it immediately to a Quash, Ancient Power, or Max Rockfall in this instance, that's really bad news as things are going. And the Charizard has Dynamaxed. I hope Rafael is prepared, should we say, for the potential Quash Rockfall combo from Kasper's side of the field, because that Lunala didn't really pose much of a threat in that opening turn.
Oh, well, here's the Max Rockfall.
No Quash needed, though, just opting into that potential speed tie.
Yeah, the Charty Berry going to be activated, but here's the Max Rockfall. It's still going to do a significant chunk of damage anyway. But it's also going to reset the weather, which is very important, taking a look at Rafael's Charizard moving second. But the Max Airstream might change that up for future turns.
The Max Airstream's probably safe here. You don't want to opt into maybe a Charty Berry over on the opposing Charizard. I know that's been something that a lot of people have pivoted into, particularly after some of the regionals that we've seen. But Lunala can follow it up now and cause a lot more problems. Not throwing into the Moonguy's beam. Lunala just charging up, and there it is. Confirmation that it's going to use the Power Herb, and this Charizard is absolutely doomed. So Kasper losing his Charizard without using all 3 turns of its Dynamax.
Yeah, that speed boost is going to be super important as well, just kind of taking a look at what else might be available. But look at the foul play coming in from the Sableye as well. Wow, that's going to be a ton of damage there, especially with that critical hit.
Critical hit shared all over the field in that turn, but taking out the Lunala, probably a good trade. I mean, you lost your Charizard, that is frustrating, but you got the Charizard on the other side, about half health. Would take that as a bit of a win. And, you know, you're still in a Pokemon count advantage, right? You've still got 3 Pokemon left if you're Kasper against Rafael's 2. You know after this turn there's going to be no more switching, no more messing around, and you're going to be able to potentially answer that as best possible. If the Ditto is there as well, the Ditto is going to know where it needs to switch into to be able to hit that slot. So interesting options here. There's the reveal of the Groudon, so we're not getting all 4, obviously.
While we take a quick break from the fierce competition,
is going to be in there as
let's talk about...
Yeah, we've got both Groudon on the field now. The Drought, though, being activated but I think from Kasper's side, that looked like...
The drought is just going to be huge for this Charizard as well, because this means this Charizard is doing more damage once again, getting that solar power back, but it's not trying to get any attacks in. Maybe wants to try and read the room a little bit, as Sableye does confirm the use of Quash. That's 3 moves that we've seen from that Sableye. That's good information, and the Groudon follows up with the Rock Slide. So this Max Guard is important, and it doesn't hit.
No, it doesn't hit the other Groudon either, so now Rafael's Groudon can fire back with a Precipice Blades, hitting both, and ooh, an eject button on that Sableye as well. So Kasper getting a switch. Yeah,
the eject button does mean we get to see the 4th Pokemon. It's the Ditto. There's the confirmation that I was looking for, and that Ditto, we know what it's directly in front of. It is a Charizard, but it's not going to be able to be the powerhouse Charizard that you expect it to be. It awkwardly ends up taking some solar power damage as well on the way in. So yes, it's a Ditto. But, you know, can he take advantage of the fact it's a Charizard? Don't forget, the Charizard over on Rafael's side has the speed boost from the earlier Max Airstream, so that should just be able to start polishing things off as it pleases. And without that Quash play coming off, I think Kasper's definitely a little bit behind in this turn. Maybe not where he wanted the Ditto. Maybe he wanted 2 Groudons. Maybe he wanted to try and play things that way. Because without the Dynamax, I don't see the value in this Charizard quite as much. Maybe it could weave in something like just a straight-up Ancient Power, and now there's no Charty Berry. That would be enough. But I think the focus for Kasper is getting rid of the Charizard, and really for Rafael, I think getting rid of the Groudon is the focus, because it should be relatively easy to deal with the Ditto turned into Charizard right now.
Oh, well, it's going to go back in its Pokeball, and we're going to see that Sableye rotate back onto the field. Maybe just hoping to suck up some of the damage, but Kasper's Groudon is going to protect, just kind of playing it safe here as Charizard goes for the G-Max Wildfire into the Groudon. Wow, even through the Protect, that is so much damage. It's the Sun, the solar power, all of that coming together. Really, really tough. And the Stone Edge misses, so he was going after it as a Charizard. The Groudon, of course, taking damage, but that does mean that for this turn, you know, the Quash play is there once again. The problem is the Quash play is telegraphed now. The Quash play is so obvious, and there's Protects available on the Groudon and the Charizard. If you leave it, okay, the Groudon's going to go down to the G-Max Wildfire. Sableye's going to come really, really close, and then you're stuck with the Ditto, which could come in and, you know, cause problems, but I just don't know if there's enough damage now with the option of Groudon just getting knocked out this turn. Maybe you predict the Protect, though, from the Charizard and see what the Groudon might be up to. It does have an interesting moveset for a Groudon that might want to run something like a Protect.
It could get a little tight when it comes to move slots, but now is the time, I guess, if you're Kasper, you want to find that out. This Sableye keeps switching around. The Ditto coming in once again. You know, just needs to try and turn into something useful, and I think maybe switching into the Charizard so it doesn't become a target for G-Max Wildfire could be very helpful there. There is the Protect on the Charizard, so the Groudon, ooh, Kasper just leaving his Groudon. Got to get some damage out of it this turn, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just going to go ahead and go for a Precipice Blades here. I think that's going to be pretty important, but the Ditto's not going to be affected by it. It's going to be a fire back onto Kasper's Groudon, and it will be enough to clean it up. That's
nice, though, that he gets the Sableye in once more. And we do know, of course, that, you know, the issue is, you know, that Charizard just protected. So the Quash plays back on. That, you know, that Charizard's still rocking the speed boost, so it does need to be a little bit more careful about it. But that Sableye been pivoted in and out a whole lot this game. Obviously once with the eject button, but a couple of pivots. Kasper has set himself up for an endgame win condition, and if this, it gets a little dicey, right? Because let's say the Sableye Charizard, oh, Ditto, sorry, are going to team up and deal with the opposing Charizard. Okay, can Groudon knock both of them out?
Oh,
not quite. Out. Well, no. Ooh.
Oh, and the Heat Wave here.
The Ditto going first. So knowing something about it, that Heat Wave in the sun, absolutely giving itself away. The Ditto, I think it's fair to say, you know, maybe showing off some of its options when it comes to items there, giving that one up, and a lovely reveal to seal the game for Kasper.
Yep, congratulations to Kasper for that game 1, but we still have game 2. and potentially a Game 3 ahead of us for this second round 4 match. But that was just really good positioning, and especially when you are running a Pokemon like a Ditto, you need to be able to position that well in order to take advantage of it. And I really think that that was super smart for Kasper to wait until the last moment to try to get damage out with the Ditto, especially realizing that the Charizard was going to, opt for a Protect there.
Mm-hmm. Well, knowing, of course, that it's holding the Choice Scarf allows Kasper to make that informed decision and finding that endgame win con where, okay, all I really need is to make sure I go first, which it did, and being able to go from there and immediately pick up those knockouts, really essential. I thought when he switched out the Ditto, he was, wasn't liking it being the Charizard, but he just wanted it in a better position with no Protects to be attacking into or any of that. So back to the drawing board a little bit for Rafael. I mean, so much time spent dealing with Kasper's actual Charizard, the Gigantamax one, that he really didn't seem to get through much. The ally switch, I'd argue, really messed things up in game number 1. Watching that Moongeist beam go into the Charizard and do minimal damage when you do need to be landing, of course, the Meteor Beam instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a good position still for Rafael to be in. I think we saw a decent amount happen with the Lunala. I still think that Lunala can be very strong, especially having access to the Meteor Beam Power Herb setup. Looking at Charizard and looking at just kind of the more likely options on Kasper's team.
It's a horrible mind game to play, though. I mean, if you see that Sableye again, you want to lock in that Meteor Beam. You only get to Power Herb it once. So you've got to be so thoughtful and so considerate about how do you, play around that ally switch. If you call the ally switch wrong, and I know a lot of people get upset when this move goes against them, but if you call the ally switch wrong, you're in big trouble. And Kasper, just running it back with the same lead. This is a little different, no Grimmsnarl here, but the Grimmsnarl really didn't accomplish much in the last game. So, you don't need it. And what I like about Kasper's side, actually, is he does just have access to maybe just an early foul play. Bluff the ally switch, land the foul play. Obviously, the Lunala is going to be okay for a turn or so, but once that, once his ability's down, it gets a little dicey.
Yes, it does. That Shadow Shield not going to be able to help it for too long. But yeah, I think that's the mind game that Kasper gets to play right now. Is, well, I led these same 2 Pokemon in that game number 1, but I ally switched. Am I going to do that again?
I do like, on Rafael's side, I do like the adaptation to the Charizard, because he knows, based on the damage that happened in the previous game with the Charty Berry, he can very comfortably take that attack. He can very comfortably deal with the Max Rockfall from Kasper's side of the field, so probably just stronger, and it forces a slightly different move choice as well. Just seeing the Charizard, you think you need to land the Max Rockfall that turn, and you need it to get the big damage down and, of course, consume the Charty Berry. But then if you don't get that down, you're not getting the G-Max Wildfire down, and that is such a huge factor in a number of these games where the damage just racks up over time.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, we saw how both sides were able to utilize that G-Max Wildfire damage in that game number 1. And so you definitely need to see some of that damage come through, but it's going to be an ally switch again to kick off this game number 2.
Did he call it? That's the big question.
Yeah, did he call it? We are going to see a max airstream just as a bit of a follow-up after that, so we'll have to wait just a couple of seconds, but that does break Lunala's ability, and now you also have a speed boost here for Kasper's side, but Charizard also just going to go for a max airstream here, playing it very safe, and that's the right thing to do.
Yep, it's the safest option when you maybe fear the Charty Berry on the other side as well. You don't want to fall behind in the speed, especially in a mirror like this, and Lunala, once again, just Moongeist beaming where that Sableye was, the Charizard taking it quite comfortably, but damage amount-wise, Rafael got a lot more done that turn. He got that Charizard below half. Probably doesn't have to worry about the Charty Berry now, and is just able to, say, okay, well, that's fine, that's cool. I can just knock you out through it anyway. So probably a slightly better turn damage-wise to see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I may as well go ahead and try to match those max airstreams, though. I think that if you're looking at just trying to control the speed in any way that you can, You know, at best, you hope that you hit the Sableye. At worst, you're still getting damage into a Gigantamax Charizard.
Yep.
It's going to be very important.
Well, Lunala being forced to leave the field, I think knowing about the threat of the follow-up foul play this turn does respect that bit of information that was gained in game number 1, so just being smart about that. The Intimidate not too impactful, but the Incineroar going to be able to take attacks a whole lot better.
Now the Max Airstream still just going to go into the Charizard here. I mean, if you're able to remove the big threat from Kasper's side, then that's going to really help out your game plan here.
It's definitely the slower way around, and you know, not. They're just. I think both players are being very respectful and trying to avoid the Charty Berry at all costs and wasting that turn essentially. It's not like they want the sand as the weather either, so it's certainly a little bit harder. But Sableye's foul play, yeah, very much the play expected from Kasper. And I think Rafael's done really well to adapt to this. This has been, you know, the Sableye's run back the same couple of moves from the previous game, learning that, respecting that, and responding to that, really nicely done. And bringing the Incineroar, a nice mix-up from Rafael, just making sure that, you know, the Grimmsnarl wasn't of value, and you need everything to be of value. But there's the Quash play, finally, Quash into Max Rockfall.
Yeah, that's just how you got to do it in order to control speed to be in your favor, but still, the Charty Berry going to keep that Charizard on the field.
Yep, the Charty Berry, you know, really helping it hold on. Incineroar going for the Throat Chop. Does get to knock out the Charizard with that, which means that the Charizard over on Rafael's side is actually going to be able to deal with the Sableye. And this is a very quick momentum swing in Rafael's favor. There's the G-Max Wildfire, and that's going to keep that momentum going with a percentage of health every single turn.
Yeah, and the fact that it gets a nice clean knockout onto the Sableye as well means that Kasper is down to his final 2 Pokemon. So who knows what's going to be in the back here. If it's that Ditto, you get a choice, I guess, of whether you want Incineroar or Charizard. You
got to be really careful. I think you have to take Charizard there. I don't think it makes sense to take the Incineroar, just because you need huge damage output for the end of this game. And what's really awkward now is, yes, the Ditto has a Choice Scarf, but the Charizard has the Max Airstream boosts. Sorry, Ditto, like, your goal to outspeed is now being taken away from you because Rafael's just been setting up so nicely with the Max Airstream. It's such a good form of speed control and should just be able to win out and go for the Ancient Power, because the Ancient Power knows there's no Charty Berry on the Ditto. It'd be a bold choice, but you know, knows it's not there and can just deal with that. So then it's you know, 4v1 on the Groudon essentially.
I mean, Groudon still has a nice target in the Incineroar. Rafael still has pivots available, though. Knows the Lunala is in the back, as well as that 4th and final Pokemon. So I think Rafael definitely has a clear way to stay out of the way of this Ditto.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Groudon as well struggles a little bit from Kasper's side, where, you know, it's not going to be able to land both of them. The Ditto's still faster, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it does copy the boosts.
Yes.
It copies everything.
Yeah, so plus the item as well. It's definitely going to be able to do a ton of damage, knocking out that Charizard before it's even able to get the jump on the Ditto. But a nice parting shot coming through from the Incineroar here.
Yeah, the Incineroar getting out of that is going to force an extra reveal potentially from Rafael, but it means that, you know, coming back in, you get another Intimidate down.
Yep.
Absolutely huge. Getting that down on the Groudon does mean you can focus a little bit more on the Charizard, but this Charizard, well, I'm sorry, Ditto, is just going to be able to just keep Heat Wave in every single turn, and that could just apply a huge amount of pressure. Now the Shadow Shield's broken as well.
Yeah, Incineroar could come back in. The White Herb was another reveal on that Groudon. It did just get consumed after the parting shot, but Lunala now switching back in for Rafael. And we'll see the Solar Power as well. Just a little bit of chip damage.
The teams are kind of just, I mean, Kasper's back pair are getting worn down slowly, and don't forget there's a lot of that G-Max Wildfire to run. It was the last move used, the max move used by Rafael. Obviously needs to make a selection here on what he's replacing it with. In comes Incineroar, so this is going to stick on the Groudon. This Intimidate is going to deal with it, so a lot riding on this Ditto with its Choice Scarf.
Groudon at -1. Ditto still has the ability to go for these super fast Heat Waves.
Oh, definitely. And being, I mean, you're just locked into the Heat Wave now. Just kind of annoying, I think, if you're, if the Groudon's in the back. But you need a spread move. You need a spread move here. That's the only way.
Well, I really think that's okay, given that we still have 4 more turns of Sun.
Yeah.
And you also have the solar power boost as well, so I think that's going to really help you just dish out some big damage. But a fake out, going right into the Ditto just to stop that for at least 1 turn. But the Groudon taking this opportunity to go for a Swords Dance here.
Kasper really believes in this back two. The Ditto Groudon is really what he's hoping for. Lunala just Meteor beaming here, though, so it is going to be all on the Groudon. And I'm not quite sure if Groudon's going to be able to do it.
+1 and the ability for Incineroar to pivot out and reset that to neutral, I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But Meteor Beam will clean up this Ditto, and now Kasper does have Groudon left.
Just Groudon, but at least they got a Swords Dance boost. And maybe it could punish things on the way in, just start throwing out those Precipice Blades, start catching things on the way in, because the Incineroar takes time to leave the field and come back to the field. Like, yes, it can get out quite quickly with Parting Shot, but it's still going to be the slowest Pokemon on the field, so it's going to have to potentially just take an attack anyway and then not be afforded the opportunity to leave. That could force a manual switch out from Rafael, which means, okay, even if the Incineroar comes back in, will it be too late? Will it be... And it'll only be back to neutral as well for this Groudon, so you won't be getting any real effect. Yeah, forced to manually switch out. But this Groudon could take a good amount of damage too, unless, there's any real way to stop it. Lunala quite smartly protecting there. But, this Groudon's going to be able to hit the opposing Groudon for free, assuming...
It hit.
There we go.
Yep, it is going to connect. And that Groudon, going to go down to about half health here. And this is really smart from Rafael, though. You can cycle through Protects. You know that Groudon is still going to take a bit more damage from this Gigantamax Wildfire residual damage for, 1 or 2 more turns. But that still can add up. And now you get a chance to pivot back in the Incineroar here with a manual switch. Now that Groudon is dropped back to neutral.
The Groudon's back to neutral. It does get the Precipice Blades going. And Lunala avoids. So I think that probably, assuming this Lunala can land a big attack. The Incineroar fell through the Shuckleberry, though. Good information to know, of course. At neutral, just, rough ballpark of how much it does. And the Lunala being left alone, though, just gets to start just dealing with the Groudon this turn. Needed to hit that Precipice Blades, and without that, there's certainly a problem. As Groudon, goes down, and we're headed to Game 3.
Oh, that Precipice Blades miss was absolutely huge, but Rafael did position himself very, very nicely in order to have that as an out in terms of making sure that he was mitigating as much of that Groudon attack as possible. And then also just a really nice fake out onto the Ditto as well to be able to remove that from the field. Yeah,
great ball positioning to make sure his Incineroar is in the right place at the right time all the time. That's absolutely huge. And that is the mark of a top player. That is planning ahead a few turns, being able to get that Meteor Beam into the Ditto. I mean, cool that he didn't have to use that to knock out the opposing Charizard. The Ditto interaction is honestly crazy. And knowing about that, knowing that you have to fake it out to get at least 1 turn to go after it, because it can't look into Protect because of the item. I think that's maybe a bit of information that Rafael capitalized on in that game and was able to push through.
Still so tricky to position a Ditto. I
can't do it. I'm not good enough for it.
I see a lot of top players do it with so much success, and it does take some time sometimes to really be able to get the board in a state that you want to actually bring in that Ditto. Maybe Kasper leaves it at home. But I do think
it was so good in Game 1.
Because I don't really know what else you actually bring to this matchup.
The argument is...
I don't know about the Venusaur here.
It's so good in Game 1. In Game 1, it wins in the game, right? So it's hard to justify leaving it at home. And Kasper, making the smart decision. Bring what wins you Game 1, but Rafael smartly adapted. I love dropping the Grimmsnarl for the Incineroar. Look how much more value that brought along with him. Yep. And honestly, Rafael handled that ally switch turn a lot better. I think playing smart, not trying to throw any huge attacks that could go to the wrong target, just respecting it, and that's all he needed to do. Not getting rash, not trying to sneak in Meteor Beams. Got to do that again in Game 3, though. You've got to be mindful of the ally switch option.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe Kasper this time around just doesn't go for it. It's that mind game again. And the fact that Kasper did it Game 1, did it again Game 2 with the exact same leads. Okay, maybe it just happens again game 3. Maybe we're reading too much into it, but that's the mind game part.
Yeah, that's the tough bit for these trainers as we do head on over into the game. It's the same lead for Kasper, I'm not particularly shocked, and the same lead for Rafael. Game 2 mirror run back has begun. Now, I'd argue it's up to Rafael to make the right choice and make sure the targeting is absolutely spot on, because we know this Lunala's not going down anytime soon. So, okay, maybe you trade max airstreams, but can the Lunala find the target for the Meteor Beam and just swing things? Because Meteor Beam, even with a Charty Berry, is gonna hurt.
And we even saw just on the returning side of things from Rafael's Charizard holds the Charty Berry. You take so much damage from the max Rockfall, even from that. But it's time to potentially run it back from games 1 and games 2. Kasper going to go ahead and Gigantamax Charizard to kick off this game number 3. But it's all up to what that Sableye does and also how Rafael decides to respond to this. We are going to see another Gigantamax on that side as well.
I imagine it's going to be the Charizard mirror on the, and then just trade the airstreams. It seemed to be very effective in game number 1. So why not run it for game number 2, sorry. So why not run it for game number 3 if you are in this position. Those are the Charizards ready and raring to go. Oh, but no ally switch.
No.
See if he's called it. An immediate max Rockfall, though, even though he knows about the Charty Berry.
May as well just go for it. It's still going to be a good amount of damage onto this Gigantamax Charizard, and sometimes that's all Charizard needs to really be knocked out. But it also is going to be able to change the weather a little bit, and that kind of covers you in case there's a little bit of a Groudon switch in here. But the max airstream, Rafael is going to be able to knock out that Sableye before it's able to dish out any damage. I
think that's a really big turn for Rafael. The fact that the Sableye doesn't get to what I imagine was a foul play at any point in there, absolutely huge. And this Lunala, oh, now the Sableye's gone. It doesn't matter. Let's see if it just goes through. I mean, it's a huge, huge attack. Rafael making the right call. You can see he's put the hands together. He's hoping that this is not a close call.
Oh,
but there it is.
The one-hit knockout as well. There was no Charty Berry on that Charizard.
Oh, it was not the Charty Berry, so it just gets knocked out. That is just a huge turn for Rafael. That is a monstrous lead that he's accrued here, and now if Kasper's down to the Ditto and Groudon combination that we've been seeing towards the end of these, this is going to get really tricky and really troublesome for Kasper. Yep, there's Groudon, there's Ditto, so he's stuck with the same 4 every game, which makes sense. I don't think that's a bad thing. But he's become the Lunala this time, which I do quite like, actually. Definitely mixing it up. You know, maybe, obviously, has to be a little bit careful about move selection. Doesn't want a Meteor Beam based on his item choice. But a Moongeist Beam would still be very, very good into opposing Lunala.
Yeah, I do like this switch up. Maybe that's exactly what Kasper needs. Maybe the Lunala is not going to be so quick to go down to something like a fake out, you know? That's going to be pretty big to be able to avoid that. And then Groudon is able to also get some work done. Kasper revealed that the Swords Dance is a possibility on this Groudon. And if given the opportunity, Groudon is going to be able to put in quite a bit of work. But it's just a big Moongeist Beam here. And that was all it really needed. One attack into the Charizard after that Charty Berry reduced max Rockfall will be enough to take out Rafael's Charizard. But now Rafael's Lunala can go for a Moongeist Beam.
Yeah, not being able to check the other Lunala means the Moongeist Beam is going into Groudon. Not enough for the knockout as Groudon's Precipice Blades once again misses this Lunala. It's had an absolute nightmare trying to hit that Pokemon today.
That it has. And that means that Kasper is down to that Lunala and a very low health Groudon as Rafael gets to bring in his Groudon. It's
all on this Ditto though. I mean, if this Ditto can start landing the attacks that it needs, you know, being able to come in and maybe Moongeist Beam the opposing real Lunala, that could swing things, because if the Groudon, you know, can't get the work done onto this Ditto, maybe it misses a Precipice Blades, maybe it just doesn't quite get there. This could get really, really interesting for both of these players, so letting them kind of play this one out. It is now an absolute mirror, even though they bought different restricted pairs. There's another Moongeist Beam, unsurprisingly, comes through from Kasper's side, and this turns into the Groudon.
Yeah, maybe just hoping to be able to knock out that Groudon, as that might be just the bigger threat. But another Moongeist Beam here is going to knock out Kasper's Groudon, so it really does come down to Kasper's Ditto to clean up everything. But Rafael's Groudon does not miss with these Precipice Blades and will be able to do some damage to that Ditto.
Yeah, Rafael's Groudon knows how to hit a Lunala, even though it is an imitation Lunala, still knows how to hit it with that Precipice Blades, and of course deal with any options. Ditto does get to try and fire back with the Moongeist Beam, but knowing it's a single target attack, yes, it gets to attack into Lunala, yes, it gets to take the knockout, but Rafael just needs to hit it with one more attack, really.
Well, let's see whether or not this Precipice Blades is going to connect. It will connect into Kasper's Ditto, and that's it. Kasper's Pokemon are all knocked out here, and Rafael takes this match 2-1.
Really good comeback from Rafael after that game one that got a little bit